Hey guys, how's it going? We're at one of my favorite shops here. This is Electric Avenue, just north of the city in Austin, just north of UT actually. Beautiful spot. There's a nice park to ride around. They've been doing this for a long time and they've got just a real cool variety of e-bikes and some scooters, electric scooters. I worked with these guys to get my motorcycle license years ago and I've really enjoyed it. So this is Mark back there and there's Audrey and some of the rest of the staff floating around. They got a bunch of new bikes in, so it's a little bit crowded today, and they've got an awesome service center in the back there. I'm gonna be checking out one of the CUBE models right here, and I'm really excited. I like CUBE a lot. They use the Bosch drive system predominantly. You can see there's a Stromer over here, there's a Faraday floating around, some Gazelles. Definitely worth checking out if you live in the Austin area, some accessories. It's been a leading, pretty stable shop in this area for how long have you guys been around, Mark? Like, when did you guys start?
Oh, we started about 10 years ago. And yeah, it's September 2009.
Rock on. I'm gonna jump back out there. It's this beautiful day, just kind of casual, chilling out. And that's what this bike is all about. This is the CUBE Elly Cruise. And I've reviewed another one of these bikes in the past, the Elly Ride. This is using the very entry-level Bosch active line motor. So this is just their kind of flatland motor. I mean, it can definitely climb, and you do have 7 speeds to shift through with this Shimano Inter 7 Nexus. This is a internally geared hub in the rear, so you can actually shift gears at standstill using this nice grip shifter. Really convenient, especially if you get distracted and you're like pedaling in a high gear and maybe you have to stop at a stoplight or there's a hill or something like that and you're like struggling to get going again. And this motor does offer 40 Newton meters of torque, but when you compare that to the performance line motor, which is like 63 Newton meters of torque, or maybe the performance line CX, 75 Newton meters, the 40 doesn't sound like much. I'm gonna do some ride tests. I'm gonna show you this thing in action. It definitely helps you get going. It takes the edge off of any kind of wind and slight hills, but I just wanna be clear that what you're trading in power, you're getting back in efficiency and just super quiet. This is a very reliable motor. I consider it to be just proven and really perfect for a platform like this. It's almost like a cruiser bike. See how the handlebars are swept back a little bit, very comfortable, and we've got this really steep stem. It's a nice comfortable saddle. Even has a suspension fork. So this is the SR Suntour NEX E25. Looks like it has maybe 50 millimeters of travel right here, and it does have preload adjust under these black caps. They can be tricky to get off. You got to really get under there, and they can kind of break and crack when you do pull them off. So I don't always adjust them, but I wanted you to know what was underneath in case you get this and you feel like maybe you're a heavier person and you're like, oh, that suspension fork is too squishy and I'm bottoming out. Well, you can preload the springs. This is a spring suspension, so it's not the world's lightest. It doesn't have lockout. It doesn't have preload or rebound or anything like that. But again, I'm sorry, it does have preload, but it doesn't have rebound. It's a more basic fork, and you'll notice that it's a little bit smaller travel and it's sleeker. So you're saving a little bit of weight on this, and you're getting that nice, beautiful color match, which I love. And they carry that all the way through the frame, including this welded on platform rack in the rear, and they've got kind of an additional rack time plate that bolts down onto it. Has this nice spring latch so you can secure light items, and a pannier hanger on the side so you can hang bags and things like that, or you can have, sometimes there's the fabric ones that hang over the top. You get a little trunk bag. There's so many possibilities, and they've already included a light. This is Herman's H-Trace. It's got 2 LEDs. I love that. So many rear lights only have 1 LED, and you know, this is just going to be more visible from the sides and a little bit more visible from the back. It's got a nice big reflector. Same with the pedals here. Larger plastic platform. They've got the little nubs, so you're not going to slip off quite as easily. And then up front, we've got this retro-styled, this is a Trellick headlight, and it's got this slice in it, and it aims the light purposefully down towards the road. See how it gets brighter when we go a little bit lower? That way you're not blinding oncoming traffic. It does point where you steer, but it's connected to the lowers, this lower portion of suspension, which is unsprung. The rest of the frame, this is sprung up here, and frankly, it'd be nice if it was connected to that portion of the bike, or maybe even up here at the handlebars, but a lot of bikes, they put it there because it's convenient. There's already a bolting pattern. it might rattle around a little bit more, but we're not talking about a mountain bike here. This is kind of a city cruiser, and you can see that in the tires. So they've got the Schwalbe Little Big Ben. They're a little bit narrower than the full-sized Big Ben that we have on some bigger, heavier bikes. This whole bike, as you see it here, this is the 54 size frame. That's the large, and they do have 4 frame sizes. So there's not only that, there's 2 colors. There's a really beautiful, like kind of a pink color, and then this like aqua and blue. So anyway, coming back to the tires, just a little bit narrower on these. It is 700C, so it's a nice wide tire size versus a really small one, and that wider design lowers the attack angle, and it creates a smoother feel and a nice smooth, like good rolling momentum. These are excellent rims. They're reinforced with these little eyelets, so that adds some strength. 36 holes, and these nice 14 gauge spokes that tend to be lightweight, a little bit more flexible, but with 36 of them, they tend to be very sturdy. Reflective sidewall stripes, so that adds another layer of safety and visibility. You know, whether you're getting this slightly darker colored teal, green color, or the red, just being able to reflect from the sides adds a lot. And you'll notice the headlight, it doesn't really have like side windows or anything. It's primarily visible from the front or at the front angles. The rear light, that's the one. I'm glad they do have like a little side window, so it's going to keep you a little bit more visible. But keep in mind, when you mount your bags, some of those fold-over bags I was talking about, they can sort of block that light. So I like how their pannier hanger is positioned a little bit more forward, so hopefully it won't block the light from the side. Not the end of the world, but a lot of these racks can be used for child seats. Thule has one. They purchased Yep, and they've got those really cute seats, and they've got big reflectors on the back because, you know, you might be distracted and you've got precious cargo on board. It's important to be safe, so that's why I'm really highlighting this. 25 kilogram, roughly 55 pound max weight on this rack. That's very standard. And then now that we're at the back of the saddle, you can see these big springs. It is fairly comfortable. And this is a nice saddle, and it matches those grips, sort of got those wrap pattern, and they are locking, so they're not going to spin if you really bear down on those grips. Maybe you get excited or it's bumpy or something. So I think this is a good setup. The one area that I would consider upgrading is this seat post. So it's 27.2 millimeters. You can get a suspension seat post, and then you get like a full suspension feel because it's going to combine nicely with that suspension fork. However, it's going to add about 3 inches of height. So as it's set right now, the saddle's not all the way down. I've done some measurements on this back when I was at the shop over there, and the standover height obviously super low. This is a wave frame, so it's full step through, very easy to approach. There's maybe a little bit more potential for frame flex, like see how I'm shaking it like that, but I really haven't noticed a lot, and I think that's because they positioned the battery pack right there behind that seat tube, and then the motor at the center right there, almost at the lowest point on the bike. I do have this nice plastic shielding as well to protect it, and it matches even this fully enclosed chain cover right here. I mean, this is beautiful, so you're not going to worry about grease and snags on your dress or your pants. I love this thing, and this is something Cube makes themselves, and it's color matched. I mean, that's fantastic. So the big takeaways here are easy to approach, clean, quiet, 20-tooth sprocket back here, 40-tooth chain ring up in the front. You're never going to lose that chain. There's no derailleur. You're not going to knock the chain into the chain stays here. And it's just going to be a clean, smooth, quiet ride because of that motor. Is it the most powerful bike? No. But it's very efficient, and it's fairly lightweight. A bike that has these full plastic fenders, lights, a rack, longer bars, internally geared hub, that all adds weight. So, you know, roughly 55 pounds on this. I think it's 54.5. And then the battery pack weighing about 5.5 pounds. That's pretty good. That's about as good as you get for kind of a hybrid cruiser is how it would describe this bike. So yeah, the tires are slightly narrower, but that also adds to some of the weight savings. So the battery pack right here, this is 36 volt, 11 amp hours for 396 watt hours. They call it the Bosch Power Pack 400. This thing has been around for years, and it's really well supported, and it's the same physical design as the Power Pack 500. So maybe a friend of yours, or maybe you already have a bike with this same battery design, but it's a higher capacity pack. Well, they're interchangeable. So this is like a forward compatible design, and you could swap it out with a Power Pack 500, which makes it really easy to travel with. You could actually ship this bike without the battery, because shipping batteries is kind of dangerous and difficult. And on location, you can just borrow or rent a battery and you're good to go. Or someday, if and when this battery breaks or expires, it's very easy to replace this. And Bosch does have a comprehensive 2-year warranty for their motor, for their batteries. They're one of the best. You know, even this display, it's all fairly modular. It's very proven. It's like drop tested. They use high quality cells in there, lithium ion, which tend to be lightweight and really long lasting. And these are some of the best. So, I mean, honestly, like, you know, I'm a big fan of Bosch because they're a proven company. They have dishwashers and appliances and all kinds of stuff. They were one of the early entrants into the US electric bike market. And CUBE is actually a European brand that's very proven, but they're starting to come into the US. So there are a few other things that I didn't mention before, and one of the primary pieces are the brakes. So these are actually rim brakes. They grab the sides of these rims rather than using a disc brake. You can see them much more clearly up here. This is a rim brake, but it's a hydraulic rim brake. So they're a lot easier to pull than mechanical brakes, which pull a cable. This compresses hydraulic fluid. These are really nice brakes. These are Magura HS11. They do have adjustable reach, so see there's that star bolt in there, so you can kind of bring them in closer or adjust them out depending on your hand size. So that's really complementing the 4 frame sizes that I keep mentioning. I love these rim brakes. I mean, you know, there are people that love disc brakes because they're a little bit further away from wet and dirt and stuff like that. A disc brake rotor would be right here. But then if you imagine parking this at a public rack, a lot of times there's a bar right here, and when you get close to it, it could bend that front disc brake rotor, and then it can start to squeak and be kind of uneven. So in Europe, a lot of these city bikes actually do use rim brakes just for that reason. They're very durable. If you want to change these or do some service, maybe you need to fix a flat tire or take the wheel off for some reason, there's this silver lever. You just pull it back and it releases. I'm trying to do this carefully. It's a little bit hard with one hand, but it releases these brakes so it's easier to get the wheel on and off. And then when you're ready to ride again, just put it back in that up position. So they're fairly tool-free in terms of wheel maintenance. And that's another thing that maybe you're doing some of that yourself, maybe not, maybe you got the shop, but just worth calling out. It goes back to the ease of use on this twist shifter, and then the display, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But I want to call out this beautiful metal rotary bell that they include with the bike. It sounds beautiful. This adjustable length kickstand that's positioned towards the rear, so it's not going to create pedal lock if you're backing this bike out of your garage. A lot of times there are bikes that have like a center mounted kickstand, which can make sense. I mean, especially if you have a big heavy suspension fork or even bigger wheels and tires. But in this case, having it towards the rear is going to support that rear rack really well. And I mean, it works fine, and it's adjustable length, so you can really stabilize this bike nicely. And then down here, you can see this little silver magnet and that sensor that says Bosch. That's measuring your rear wheel speed. And there's some bunch of sensors inside the motor unit itself that measure your pedal cadence and pedal torque. So there's these 3 signals that the motor controller is listening for, and it's listening over 1,000 times per second. It's super responsive. It's a really smart motor. It's even listening for shifting torque changes. So it's measuring your pedal torque, and then if it measures like a spike up in pressure, that can be measuring for shifting, even on an internally geared hub like this. So the point I'm trying to make is it's smart enough to sort of ease back and reduce some of the strain and pressure on the drivetrain, the chain, the sprockets, and then some of the internal gears down there. I think that's really cool. It's very special. It's something that really only Bosch is doing, and maybe 1 or 2 Bafang setups that actually have a physical shift sensor, whereas this one is software driven. So again, the takeaways here are this motor is compact, it's lightweight, whereas the performance line motors weigh like 8.8 pounds. This one's like 6.5. It's just super lightweight, super quiet, but the torque, 40 Newton meters instead of 65, and the pedal rate, you can only get up to 100 pedal RPM, pedal strokes per minute, versus 120. So you really do need to shift gears in order to hit the top speed on this bike, which is roughly 20 miles per hour. This is a Class 1 electric bike. It's allowed in pretty much all places that a regular bicycle is allowed if you're in a location that has any e-bike legislation in place. Class 1 is meant to be just like universally accepted. So for me, this is a huge win, and I like having the battery pack right there and the lightweight motor compared to the Elly Ride that I reviewed in 2017. It had a battery pack right here on the rack, and it did create some of that frame flex, and it took up some of the weight limit that you might want to use for like a kid or something like that. So this battery, I don't have the keys, but it's fairly easy to get off. You just insert the key and then it sort of pops forward like this, and it might bump into this plastic fender, but these are very durable. And I love the fact that this fender is attached right here. You can hardly see it, but it's bolted onto the rack in multiple places, so it really doesn't rattle a whole lot. It's very durable. That's nice, because sometimes you get like heavier metal fenders that can scratch and get rusted or bent. These are going to be very durable, but you are probably going to have some contact whenever you take that battery off your bike. Now, you don't have to take it off when you charge. You can just go down here and plug it in right there. You might want to make sure that that leash is connected so you don't lose this rubber grommet, because if you lose that, then it's just going to get dust and stuff in there. It looks really nice with it on. So you'll be charging that thing with the included 2 amp charger. It's going to take a little bit longer than the standard 4 amp charger that Bosch sells with all their PowerPack 500 batteries, but that's one way they're trying to keep the price down. And with a 400 watt hour pack, you really don't need it. You're still going to be able to charge this up in 4 to 5 hours, and you're going to get excellent range because of the efficiency. I do often take my battery pack off when I am storing my bike in a really cold or really hot environment. Like, we're in Austin right now. It's pretty hot, and with the battery on, someone could tinker with the display. They can't really do much with the bike because there's no throttle. They'd have to pedal it to get the motor to do anything. But still, you could take the battery pack off, take it inside into your cool apartment or maybe your place of work, and charge it during the day. And by keeping it in a cool, dry location, you're really going to extend the life of those lithium-ion cells. So that's something I recommend. Try not to drop it. You'll notice there's this nice handle and like a big loop, actually. Carrying these around is really easy. Only weighs like 5.4 pounds. So it's a good solution. It's one that's proven, it's durable, and those are some tips on how you can really take care of this. And I just want to appreciate this again, this nice big plate right here and sort of that angular design, thicker tubing, both here on like the main tube or the down tube and that seat tube, as well as a gusset right here, or maybe just an extra bar that's going to create some strength and like structural rigidity so that you're not getting that frame flex, which on some bikes can create speed wobble. So the handlebars can feel a little bit just unstable at higher speeds. That's not the case here. And again, the top assisted speed is about 20 miles per hour. Okay. With all that said, I do want to call out and compliment CUBE for adding bottle cage bosses right there on the main tube. They didn't always have that on some of their older ones, and it meant you have to put your bottle in a bag in the back or something. And I love how reachable this is. Yes, it could get kicked or kind of, bump into you if you jump off the saddle quickly, but you don't have to put anything here if you don't want to. And there are flat things like little mini pumps that kind of mount to the side or a folding lock. It's just nice to have that option. And there are other adapters that create like a little cup holder up here. You can make a phone mount. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to charge your phone or any accessories off that battery because there's really no USB charging support on this bike. Something I've complained about before. The Bosch systems, they have several displays, and this is like their most entry-level basic one. It's a little bit more affordable, it's compact, and it does a good job. They have another one called the Intuvia that's really big, and it's removable, and it's got like a USB charging port. This one has the port, but it's not active. That's really only for diagnostics and software updates. So for a long time, I've been like, Bosch, why don't you enable that? But they don't. So anyway, this is fixed. It's not removable, but it does swivel a little bit if you get some glare. I press the power button, it boots up quickly. Speed in miles per hour. Assist level, it's an off right now. And then we have 5 bars on that battery infographic. So each bar represents about 20% capacity. It's the same thing down here. See, there's a little LED readout on the side of the battery. So you don't really even have to have that mounted to the bike to get some sense of how full it is. But I went ahead and turned off the bike when I used that button down there. So here we are again. If you're worried about range, there is this really cool menu in here. By holding the minus key, we go from current assist level to trip distance to total distance to range. And range has just a minus right now because we're not in any level of assist. Remember, we're in off. So if I press the plus button, now we're in eco. That's the lowest level. And it says you can go 111 miles based on how full that battery is. It must be completely full. So it's really dynamic. I mean, you've got those 5 bars to sort of estimate with, and then you've got this range sensor. It's sort of a dynamic software-driven thing, much like the shift sensing. And that's really cool because as you're riding, it's taking into account, okay, how much battery do we have? How hard is that motor working? And different factors like how full your tires are, or how steep the hill is, or how windy the day is, how much you weigh, like those all influence how well the bike performs, how efficiently it performs. And this range estimation, it updates every mile or so. So it's pretty dynamic. As I click up, I go to Tour, Sport, and Turbo. Turbo is the highest level of assist. Now it drops way down from 111 miles to 43 miles of range. So you can see there's a huge difference. I do tend to ride in Sport or Turbo, the two highest levels, just because this motor it's more efficient, and I'm kind of like a sporty guy. I like to feel it, and with these reviews, I want you to hear and see that motor in action. So I'm gonna take out that rock that I was using to sort of stabilize myself during the pictures, and we're gonna hop on. We're gonna go for a ride. You can see what this thing looks like, how it performs. I'm gonna go ahead and shift. I guess I'm already in the first gear, so we're all the way down. You can't even really hear it, right? Like, we're in the highest level of assist, but it's almost silent. Now I'm gonna shift up, go ahead and slow down and change gears. There we go. This is the highest level now, the highest gear for speed. Beautiful. Very comfortable upright body position. Got that nice swept back handlebar, the suspension up there, and that sprung saddle. It's just an awesome bike to ride. Perfect for cruising around the neighborhoods and stuff. And heading towards some shade. Let's see here. I'm going to shift down to like kind of a mid-level gear at stop, which remember is really cool because it's an internally geared hub. I'm in 3. Okay guys, from here you can not see that 40-tooth chainring and that 20-tooth sprocket in the rear because of that beautiful paint matched, it's kind of like a rubberized plastic chain cover. It's just gonna keep you clean and it makes the bike look beautiful. Unfortunately, not being able to see that chainring, you're not going to see how quickly it responds and stops, but I can tell you it's one of the best. And you can pedal backwards. You can also ride this bike unassisted. You can turn it to off, or you can even take the battery off the bike, and it's still going to ride fine. You're not going to encounter any drag or anything. You know, the bike weighs a little bit more because of the internally geared hub and all the accessories, but really I find this to be a very balanced, just very comfortable bike. So I'm a big fan, and my hope is that from this position mounted to the frame, you're going to be able to hear the motor and sort of sense how strong it is or whatever. I've reviewed many other bikes where this is visible using the same Bosch active line motor. You could search those and do the comparison, but take my word for it, it's a reliable motor, it's quiet, it's just not the most powerful. There are certainly other bikes out there that are going to feel a lot more zippy, but they're not going to get the same range as this. They're going to make more noise, and they might not be as reliable as this. So those are the trade-offs. I'm in the highest level of assist purposefully during this test ride so you can kind of hear things, and here we go. Oh, and I am going to shift gears too while we ride. Go. Those rim brakes are working pretty well. I'm not having to squeeze too hard, and we do have 4-finger levers so you can really get a hold of that thing. Stopping is not a problem. Getting assistance has been good, but yeah, I mean this is a more subtle motor. I want to reiterate that. It's really nice if you can try these bikes, and they are sold predominantly in shops. I don't think they're really any online. They don't do the direct thing, so they're trying to give people that good experience so you can get the frame size right and everything. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Oh, there is let's see, as you're pedaling and you're shifting gears, I've noticed that it doesn't shift right away if you're pedaling hard and if the motor's pulling. And that's like a self-protection mechanism on the Nexus Inter 7 and a lot of these internally geared hubs. It means you kind of have to like ease off a little bit or just pause for a second, and then the gears will fall into place. And so if you find that you're riding and you're shifting that twist shifter and nothing's happening, just ease off for a minute and then the gear might click into place. Yeah, hope that helps. Yeah, so at this point, I'm not really getting any extra assistance, and I was up towards, 16, 17 miles per hour. If I wanted to hit 20, I would need to shift gears. So that's what I mean. It's like, it's really dependent on what gear you're in, and that makes this bike a little bit more dynamic. As you empower yourself to climb or to go at higher speeds, you're also empowering the motor. The thing is, you do have to shift. And again, on this bike, it's pretty foolproof. I mean, you can shift gears. You don't have to worry about dropping the chain. You don't have to worry about grinding the gears or anything. Hey, guys. It's a cute dog. Oh, boy. Let's get out of here. So I think, it's kind of fun to be able to get out on a bike like this. Very stable, very quiet, very efficient. And again, the words like foolproof kind of come to mind for me. So I hope that helps you out. I've done my absolute best to measure the length, the height, the width, like everything I possibly could on this bike. I only had access to the 54 size frame, so those are the dimensions you're getting. Other frame sizes are going to be smaller, maybe more approachable for you. For the full written review, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. There's a comparison tool. You can click a button and compare this to other bikes. And please check out one of your local shops like Electric Avenue. These guys are great. They've been a lot of fun and really supportive of me over the years. I love you guys. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.